All right, so Record of Ragnarok chapter 103, we have the early spoilers, and the question you've all been wondering has finally been answered. Yes, Loki has touched Hilda. So I did ask, obviously, if that was the reason he had a doll. Was it because he never made physical contact? But no, that rumor is dispelled. He has made physical contact. Of course, if you guys watched my previous videos earlier in the month, you know what we're going to be getting in this chapter. It is going to be the backstory of Loki, but it is specifically going to be talking about his relationship with Hilda. Now, within this backstory, we find out that Loki and Hilda actually did have something of a platonic relationship, you should say. Loki actually got some insane statements this chapter as well. He was stated to be like on par with Odin and Thor. He was the most feared god in the Norse. And basically, like, he had a whole different personality before he met Hilda. He was this kind of edgy loner dude that everybody was afraid of. But one day, all the Valkyries were in Valhalla, the Garden of the Gods. That's what they call it in Ragnarok, at least. They were pranking each other. Locke threw some cake or fruit at Hilda's face, and then Hilda grabbed this watermelon and she was gonna chuck it back, but it missed and hit Loki, who just happened to be strolling by. Now Loki actually catches it in his mouth. It's like this comedic scene, blows up his face, all puffed out. He ends up chomping down on the watermelon, and he does something that Hilda finds extremely funny. So she starts laughing. She has this wide smile on her face, and right at that moment, effectively, Loki falls in love with her. And basically from that moment on, he goes on to want to recapture that moment. He wants to continue to see her smile, and he changed his whole personality for her. He became the trickster. They even talk about at the beginning, Loki became the trickster god because of love. So basically what Loki would do is he'd run around, he'd pull all these different pranks in front of Hilda because he wanted to get her to smile, and she did smile most of the time. And he was successful in a lot of these endeavors, but he kept trying to up the ante. It even gets to the point where he actually steals Thor's hammer, so that man is worthy. I don't even know if that's how it works in Record of Ragnarok. I don't remember, but it was pretty funny. He did take Thor's hammer. He escaped Thor. Thor was using lightning, chasing after them. He, shot them with lightning, but they escaped. They got outside, and basically they had like a really cool moment where they were just laying in the field, and it was like a bonding moment. Hilda was laughing. She said she'd never been that scared in her life, and Loki just said that he never wanted to be without that smile. He wanted to see that smile for the rest of his life. You guys know where this is going to end up leading to, though. We know what ends up happening. Hilda ends up with Sig Freed. So how does that all happen? Well, it seems that after that event, Loki was potentially going to propose to her, or he was going to profess his love because he walked over to her with flowers. But when he arrives, she's getting married to Sig Freed. That's what I assume, at least this is. There's nobody else there, but it looks like a marriage. Maybe they're just on a date. Who knows? That might tie into Hilda saying that Sig Freed wasn't her ex-boyfriend. Maybe she meant he's supposed to be her husband. Who knows? But Loki sees this, and immediately, jealousy emerges. He has to stop this. He has to get his girl back. He never knew about Sig Freed, never knew he was in the picture, which is interesting because it seems like that had gone on for a while where he was trying to impress her, and I guess he never seen this guy. With that said, he formulates a plot. We don't know what that plot is, but we do cut to Sig Freed, who is famous for slaying the dragon Fafnir. We see this actually this chapter. He slays the dragon Fafnir. It looks really cool when he does it. Dragon's cut into pieces, and Odin's personal servants are, they're shocked. They can't believe it. We don't get any explanation on why he did it. We move on. We see that Odin has invited Hilda and Sig Freed to the castle. And we seen this a couple chapters ago, but we didn't get the context. But this ties into that. He brought them to the castle. Of course, we know that he finds out that Sig Freed's going to be a vessel at some point, but he didn't know it this time. The reason he brought him into the castle is because he was going to punish him for slaying the dragon Fafnir. Now, the weird thing is, Sig Freed acts as if he doesn't know what's going on. Like, he says, I didn't slay the dragon. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Odin says nonsense. The guards, are getting ready to apprehend them, and it actually looks as if Odin and Sig Freed are going to fight here. Aura for aura. Would have been an immense clash. That gets stopped, though, however, when we find out that Odin's runes within his body are starting to react to Sig Freed. So at that moment, Odin can't believe what's going on. He says strange, but he realizes, like, oh shit, Sig Freed's actually compatible to be the vessel. So he doesn't end up fighting him. He just sentenced him to eternal imprisonment. What's actually revealed, though, that it was Loki that took Sig Freed's appearance and slayed the dragon Fafnir. And he says, oh man, it would have been some trouble if I was truly found out. So Sig Freed was framed. I did call this in my prediction, I said I think Loki was probably involved in Sig Freed getting imprisoned by Odin. That does seem to be the case. Now, it's unclear if Hilda knows for sure, but the theme of this is that after this moment, she never smiles at Loki again. She actually glares at him when he tries to talk to her in the garden. So I think that she believes that Loki had a hand in this, but maybe her suspicions aren't provable, and she can't put her finger on it, but she knows that he had something to do with it. There's no dialogue between them about it, but every time Loki continuously tries to impress her again, trying to replicate that smile, she never will smile at him, and that is what his goal is. His goal is at the end of this, he wants her to smile at him. Could be a death flag. Maybe she smiles when he dies. That's the first thing that rang into my mind. But basically, it just explains that she went on to start Ragnarok, and one of the most interesting things that we see is that Morgan is shown in the crowd canonizing Apocalypse of the Gods. Obviously, it was already, canon, but yeah, some people were in disbelief that it's canon, but Morgan does show up in the Record of Ragnarok series. So for anybody that was on the fence, they are canon, same design and everything. And we actually also found out that when Hilda was apprehended by the incubus back in chapter 1 and Thor saved her, Loki was actually waiting in the shadows and he would have saved her as well. So I thought that was a cool moment. One thing I do want to say is, though, when Sig Freed got in prison, Hilda was clearly crying, basically inconsolable. She was on the ground, and Loki was really kind of thinking about himself in the moment, like, damn, if I was found out, it would have been rough. Why is she even acting like this? So he really didn't care that she was hurt that bad. He was thinking very selfishly that he wants her for himself. So is it true love in the end of the day, or is it just selfish lust for attention and a feeling that he had never felt before? Because he had never felt that feeling before seeing Hilda smile that way. The feeling of loving somebody else, feeling of those butterflies, so to speak. So this is all going to be very interesting. We basically get to see Loki's perspective through a couple events. Like I said, with the incubus, we see another perspective of him and Hercules talking before Hercules' round. Then we actually get to see the moment at the beginning of the tournament where Loki and Hilda lock eyes. And then it basically cuts back to the main events of what's been happening. Obviously, last chapter we saw Loki get shot in the head. A lot of people obviously suspected it's not going to be the real Loki. It is not the real Loki. And Loki is actually behind Simo. He flanked him and he took the appearance of a rabbit, and all he's thinking is the word kill. Because as he's thinking about all this shit that just transpired with, Hilda, the thing that was ringing through his mind that whole time that he kept writing into his diary was the word kill, 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 kill them all to get Hilda to smile back. The word kill. He's ambushing Simo. Simo's unsuspecting. Next chapter is going to be insanity, bro. Cannot wait. But of course, the full breakdown for the full chapter will be up. Make sure you're subscribed, locked in, turn that notification bell on. As soon as I get the translations, we'll get the full thing done. This was just a little quick spoiler for you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one.